Hi guys, I'm Munchendaster the Dungeon Master, and welcome to Munchendaster's Dungeon Master Masterclass. This is Chapter 2, Section 1. Now, I'm going to go back over everything we went over in the live class. If you missed the live class, don't worry about it. Like I said, we're going over everything in the lesson plan right now. So, Part 1. We're going to talk about how to make money on what you already are doing. So, we're going to talk about how to take your content that you already have, your maps, homemade stat blocks, custom classes, custom races, all of your homebrew content. We're going to talk about how to take that and how to turn that into passive income. That's the goal. So let's dive right into it. There's a few ways to do it, and basically it helps if you already have some content. Now, here's different types of, we're going to make a list here. Take your notes, okay? It's time to take notes. You got to start off. You're going to need your fancy pencil. You're going to want to write this down, okay? So now, if you're going to be producing content, the purpose of producing content, of course, great. You know, say you're gung-ho, you have content, you're ready to start putting it out there. Stop. Wait. Okay? Don't put out content just haphazardly. Put out content for a reason, like on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So basically, first you want to establish the brand you're trying to build with your content, because just straight up, unless you go viral or people just really get into your content, it's passive income and it is great, but it's not like make most of your money on actual live games, which is in chapter 3, which we're coming up to soon. So what you're going to do is build your brand with this content. The purpose of this content is so that when you later market yourself as a professional DM to try to get players into your games, you're going to have this backlog, this catalog, or even portfolio, so to speak, of your work. So they're going to be able to see what kind of worlds you're building, what kind of monsters you like to homebrew, what kind of games you like to play, and then they can make a better judgment as to hiring you or not. And an educated audience is always the best audience. You want your person you're selling to know as much about you as they can, because people can spot fakeness nowadays, and you're trying to sell authenticity. You're trying to sell just, be the real McCoy. You're like, hey, I'm a good DM. It's going to be a fun game. That's the only promise you're making, right? So show them how fun your game is by making this content. So before you start making your content, get out your notepad, and we're going to make you do a really small brand building exercise. Now, you're going to want to think of your brand. What is your name? Okay, I'm Munchendaster. It's catchy. People remember it. It's worked for me so far. Okay? Other people have other catchy names. DM Dave. It kind of rhymes. Or at least it sounds right. It goes off the tongue correctly. So you're going to want to think of your brand. Now, here's a great brand building exercise that can help you kind of come up with stuff. In section 1, you're going to write down stuff about yourself. Okay, it's backwards, so we're going to do it dyslexically. So in this section, you're going to write about basically your personality, right? So say if I'm doing this for myself, right? I'm Munchendaster, so I like to think that I'm a little bit funny. I'm a little bit, I like to be, I'm not super serious, so I'm kind of like, funny and fun, but I'm also kind of like a wizard, just because that's like a word I like to use to describe myself, right? So you just write adjectives about you. Say you're a big, hairy guy, you write big and hairy. Say you're just like, you do a bunch of great voices, put voice acting, right? So you're going to put your strengths here. Don't be modest here either. This is the time when you're supposed to brag on yourself. So write down stuff about yourself that is you, like you're the thing that makes you, not any other guy. And then over here, we're going to write down niche stuff. So the stuff that you are trying to hit, the niches, right? So you're going to say fantasy, right? Because it's D&D or it's TTRPGs in general. You're going to write fantasy. You're going to write games. You're going to write what exactly type of game you play. Okay, if you like to run horror games a lot, you're going for the horror niche. You write for the horror niche. All right, and you're going to put all those stuff down here. So let's just say we're primarily writing horror content, one shots. Just if you are that guy, it could be anything. I'm just using horror as an example because it's a fun one. We're going to say you're writing horror, game, fantasy, and you're a crazy, fun, funny wizard. So how do we write funny, horror, fantasy? Okay, so funny, horror, fantasy, that is now our brand. Funny, horror, fantasy. Those 3 words, you can Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Mishaps, or are you playing the bad guys? Goblins is in that genre. The Goblin release that they did for the or for 5th edition, that D&D Goblin thing. So you come up with this stuff like, okay, goblins. Goblins are a little bit scary, but also funny. And they're also kind of a wizard. So you could say, okay, so look, I want to be the Goblin Wizard DM, right? So now I'm the Goblin DM. So if you are the Goblin DM and that is your brand, now what do people expect from you when they hear that? They expect the game to be kind of funny, but a little bit brutal, a little goblin-y, maybe they expect mischief from you. So you're developing out a brand, and before you put out any content, if you haven't already, you're going to want to have this established so that you know kind of which direction you're going and what you're trying to make people think of you or what you're trying to look like to the world, right? So once you have that established, and you go back and change this as many times as you want to, you can change it every day of the week. You can change it whenever you want. But whenever you have that ready and you understand your brand and the direction you're going, then move on to the next section, which is going to be Chapter 2, Section 2. Thanks.